Hey, what's up, guys? How you doing? It's me, Mr. 4K Upscaler. So what I'm gonna try to do here, I'm gonna try to go ahead and see if I can go ahead and give Batman Begins another try. If you guys have missed my previous two videos, you will see that I was doing a in-depth review on Christopher Nolan 4K collection, and my first impression was that Batman Begins just didn't strike me as like a great transfer, but some people told me if you're watching it on a Sony XBR X900E, you have to turn off some of the filters off, and you need to regulate your temperature color and turn all the other filters off, and turn like a light sensors as well. You need to turn that off. So I'm gonna go through some of the features here. I'm gonna try to turn off some of these filters off, and then I'm gonna see if I can get that good picture quality that this transfer was being mastered in. So I'm gonna go ahead and give it a try. Okay, so what I basically did, I have noticed I turned off some filters on the television, but I did use this extended dynamic range, which is the way for you to adjust the peak luminance for the brightest whites and blackest blacks. And if you select this extended dynamic range, you really get that really nice HDR peak brightness and deep dark levels, and that's what I was missing on this movie. So I definitely see a little better improvements now since I have selected this. But even with all of these improvements and calibrations that I implemented on this film, I still feel that the movie it's not at that highest bit rate that all the other discs are on this collection. When you look at Dark Knight Rises, Inception, Dunkirk, and what's the other one? Prestige. You definitely notice that those movies have a little bit higher bit rate, and they're a little bit more sharper, you know. But to me, just that wasn't the case here with the Batman Begins. I don't know why that is. I'm not saying it's a bad transfer. I'm just simply saying it's not what I expected. And it's not gonna blow you away. Like if you compare the Blu-ray version with the 4K version, you're not gonna be like super impressed. That's what I'm trying to say. But let's go through some more scenes here really quick. And believe me, I know that this is an old movie. It's been a while since 2005, or was it 2004, since this movie was released. But my whole point was, I have seen movies older than this movie, and they got much better transfer, much better bit rate. Okay, it's not bad. What I'm trying to say here, there is HDR here. You do have HDR. You do notice things pop. The light pops. Color pops here and there on certain scenes, but it's not as the bit rate is not what I kind of expected. I really expected this movie to be like the highest possible bit rate, and I would mind that grain. You can have that grain like on Blade Runner, but Blade Runner really has a high bit rate, and HDR it's really vibrant. And that movie, it's almost nearly 3.5 decades, 3 decades old, 3.5 decades. It's a very old movie. So to me, you know, I was a bit disappointed that they haven't done that with the Batman Begins. All right, another thing I did is I turned off this advanced contrast enhancer. I turned that off because I don't think it's honestly necessary because I already have HDR and I already have that other extended X enhancer. So I turned this one off, and the picture seems to be coming along a little bit better here. Black adjustments, I left it at high. and the black levels I left it at 30. And the color, it's at 50, but honestly, I felt like maybe I could squeeze a little bit more color here. Like, how about 55? Leaving color at 55. Color temperature is neutral. That seems to be fine. We'll leave it at neutral. Let me see something here with the clarity. I turned this off. Let me double check something really quick. All right, another thing that I just did here, I turned off the reality creation. This just adds more stress to the picture quality. So you want to make sure you turn this off. You don't need that. I turned that off. Seems to be much better when it's moving. I turned that off. Sharpness, it's at 50, but maybe we can move it down to, how about at 30? Let me see something. So anyway, I left the sharpness at 50 at the default. Seems to be just fine leaving it at the default 50. So I'm kind of getting a little bit better here with the picture quality. The key thing is here, you want to make sure you turn some of these filters off. These filters can create problem. Like this random noise reduction, you want to turn that off as well. Let's see what else we got. Digital noise reduction, you want to turn that off as well. This is only if you're watching a cable. For 4K, you really don't want that. And the motion here, it's set to standard. But I'm sure if I turn that off, it would be even better. All right, so I left it at smooth here, and it seems to work quite well. Cinema motion, that's high, that's fine. Okay, so what I noticed here is that it looks a bit better now. You see, this is why you have to calibrate your TV. You have to spend time calibrating, because every movie is different. Okay, this movie is different. It looks different. But here I was able to squeeze this picture quality from this transfer a little bit better. So now I'm getting a better picture quality here from this 4K transfer. It does have a good 4K transfer, but it's not the greatest 4K transfer. What I'm simply saying, I personally believe that Warner Brothers could have done a little bit better job on the Batman Begins. It seems as if they didn't spend too much time on the Batman Begins, okay? It's like they converted it and they mastered it from 2K to 4K, and they added some HDR conversion. They compressed that HDR. I just don't think that they spend a lot of time with the Batman Begins, because I know they could have done a hell of a lot better job taking the negative from the original film and then remastering it, But hey, it's still good. This is still the best this is the best Batman Begins version you're gonna get in the physical media disc, obviously. But you do have to calibrate. The calibration is involved. And here I've noticed a bunch of HDR. HDR here pops Michael Caine, and then you see in the background, you see the light shining his suit. So here I now notice the HDR much better here on this scene. So yeah, it looks a little bit better. It looks better, So this is Batman Begins. So what can I say about Batman Begins 4K HDR Blu-ray disc? Should you buy it if you already have the Blu-ray version? Here's the thing. Here I am with the Oppo. I'm using a very sophisticated, very good 4K player, okay? And I can tell you that today I was looking at Terminator 2 via Apple 4K TV, and I was just blown away how beautiful that transfer is. Now I did hear there's some issues with the DNR. I didn't notice any of that DNR on the Apple 4K TV version. I will check the physical media version tomorrow, and I'm going to compare Terminator 2 physical media version with the Apple 4K version just to see if there's any difference between the two, and if there's a DNR in it. But the reason I'm mentioning Terminator 2, because here's Terminator 2, which is even older movie than Batman Begins, and still was getting a little bit better transfer. What I'm trying to say sometimes is some studios, they spend more effort on certain movies than the others. And I felt like that was the case here. And it's kind of sad that they didn't spend too much time on the Batman Begins, because I really love Batman Begins. It's a great, this is the movie that kind of like gave birth to a new Batman era, you know, in a way. And it did. So, and it's the movie that really made Christopher Nolan who he is today. This movie opened the doors for him to become who he is today. So I kind of felt like, really, you know, you're not going to spend too much effort on Batman Begins? You know, I mean, don't get me wrong. This is still superior than the Blu-ray version. You're still going to have a much better detail because you have HDR. HDR is going to pop. You're going to have much better sound. Bit rate's going to be higher than the Blu-ray, but it's not to the point where it's going to blow you away. It's like I was really expecting a really sharp detail, like, you know, like really, really razor sharp, but apparently we didn't get that here. And even here, you can see when they're in the cave. Let me just stretch the picture a little bit for demo purposes here, because I'm not doing this because this is how you want to watch the movie. I just want to do this just to kind of like pinpoint certain things, so that way I don't have to zoom in with my camera. All right, so before you guys start bitching and moaning, hey, why are you stretching the picture? I'm doing it because I want to point a couple of things about this movie and the transfer, okay? One of the things, like, I don't know if you guys can see it or not, there's not, like, there's no depth of, you know, the picture doesn't have that sharp depth, you know, to it. Unlike other movies where there's like a depth of field, like you see like three-dimensionally, like you see in a like there's a sharpness of depth of distance, where everything appears more sharper and vivid. You know, there's more vividness to it in other movies from Christopher Nolan, but here that just wasn't the case, you know. And even when I zoom in, even if I zoom out, you still see that the picture just doesn't have that sharp detail that was necessary for the movie, you know. And it's a 69 mpbs, which is not bad. But if you look at other movies that Christopher Nolan has, the mpbs goes up to 85, 86, 82. So the bit rate is much higher. Definitely much higher on, you know, his other movies. Like, there's HDR. Like, here, you see the HDR. It's definitely presented. The deep dark levels are nice, and HDR here is definitely present. HDR presented here as well. You know, especially in certain scenes, like in the cave, you definitely appreciate HDR. You know, so in a certain scenes, this movie will definitely showcase the HDR and why HDR is so important. But, you know, that HDR sometimes doesn't really help much if you don't have that sharp bitrate detail. You know, when you have that sharp bitrate detail, and then you add HDR, then it looks even better. Another great example of HDR right here, looking at the light shining through this cave onto a Michael Caine's face. Sir Michael Caine, or is he Sir Michael Caine? I don't know. I think maybe not. The great Michael Caine. How about that? So the HDR, it's present. HDR here is present as well. Looking at the elevator shaft, you know. So all in all, what can I say about Batman Begins? This is my second time looking at it. It is good, and it's definitely the best version you can get right now. All right. You know, this is like the best version you can get in terms of HDR, in terms of like 4K master, this is the best version you can get. However, you will have to tweak your television a little bit. You will have to do some calibrations on it. I'm also going to test this movie with the Samsung KS8000 and the TCL. I want to see the difference between the two. How do I feel about the Christopher Nolan collection? I like it that there's a lot of value to it. You get all of his movies and they look great. There's extra features. It's definitely worth it. My only complaint is I wish that they had added a little bit better bitrate, a little bit better remaster on the Batman Begins. If they have done that, and if they had included Dolby Vision and Dolby Atmos on all of the movies, I think that would have been like a clear and cut case. Like, you gotta have it, you know. So it is great, but like I said, Batman Begins is like a hit or miss. You know, I expected more, but it's definitely, you're not going to be disappointed. What I'm trying to say, this is the best version you can get at the moment as I'm filming this, you know, video. But don't expect anything like super extraordinary, you know what I mean? So there you have it, you know, HDR. You know, one thing you will appreciate about the movie, it's the HDR, you know, the bitrate. It's a little bit better than Blu-ray. Okay, let's just put it that way. It's a little bit better than a Blu-ray. The bitrate is definitely a little bit better than Blu-ray. However, HDR is the key here, and you will definitely notice that HDR, and of course, the newly remastered audio will help you out. But I hate to say it, it's just the bitrate is not as high as I was hoping it to be, you know. But nonetheless, it's still a good transfer, and it's the best one you can get at the moment. So if you're a fan of Batman Begins and you were wondering should you purchase this one or not, if you have a 4K TV and you have HDR, you should definitely do it. You're only going to benefit with the HDR, and especially if you have a good surround sound system, you're only going to benefit, you know. But I would recommend that you get the Nolan collection and get everything, you know, because the Nolan collection, all the other movies are just top-notch, mastered in 4K and HDR. Batman Begins definitely benefits from the HDR, but the bitrate, it's not the greatest. This movie was in 2K, original source, and then mastered in 4K. Kind of like it's a 2K source upscaled to 4K. That's what this is basically. This is a 2K source being upscaled to 4K, and then you add HDR. Now, I have no problem with that because a lot of movies are being mastered that way. I have no problem with that digital intermediate. My only problem is, why haven't you used a higher bitrate? Use more layers on the disc, put the higher bitrate, put the maximum bitrate, and give us that razor sharp clean. If this thing had like a maximum capacity bitrate and few layers on the disc, I guarantee you this would look much sharper, more razor sharp, and then with HDR, it would just look a hell of a lot better. We have seen that with with Blade Runner. We have seen that with Fifth Element, and we have seen that with Professional, and of course we have seen that with what's the other movie that I checked out? Man, we have seen that with Terminator 2 as well. And Bram Stoker Dracula. I'm sorry, Bram Stoker Dracula as well. How beautiful that transfer is, and the bitrate. So there you have it, guys. You know, I gave it a second look. I'm gonna try this on a Samsung KS8000 to see how it looks on Samsung, and also to see how it looks on TCL. Since now I have a bunch of TVs, I have the opportunity and the ability to do comparison between all these different TVs and to see how they all stacked up together, you know. All right, guys. So tomorrow I'm gonna continue part number 2 for the Xbox One X. We're gonna try The Witcher 3, Forza 7, bunch of other games, FIFA. We're gonna try a bunch of games tomorrow with the Sony XBR X900E. There will be a comparison between my Samsung and this TV. It's just that it'll take time. You know, I'm taking one step at a time. I'm trying to do it one step by step. But the comparisons and the tests will be done. You just have to kind of be patient because it takes a lot of time and effort for me to put these videos and do them, you know. But I just want you to know the comparisons will be done. All your questions and answers will be answered. Okay. So thank you guys for watching. I appreciate it. Thank you for all the support. Like I said, I wouldn't have made it to 19,000 nearly. I think I'm gonna hit 20K, 20,000 subscribers, and that's, to me, that's a pretty big deal. Within a year, to reach that many subscribers, it's pretty substantial to me personally, because I started with nothing, and this is pretty substantial, and it's kind of shocking that I even made it this far. But anyway, thank you guys, appreciate it. Thank you.